Hello guys, and welcome back to Hey Manager Me Alex, and today we're going to go through my second draft of my FPL team for Game Week 1. I'm going to make a nice quick one, I'm going to go through a few of the changes, go through a few of the players that I've picked, and let's just see who I've gone with. So then, let's get into it straight away with my first transfer in, shall we call it. It is Mykolenko. So last time round, my back five, it looked like Wan-Bissaka, I think it was Van der Ven, I think I might have had Udogi in there. I definitely had Dorgu. I can't remember the other two defenders that I had in there. But we had basically a very, very cheap centre back slash defensive sort of back line, which I wasn't really too happy with. So what I've done is I've brought in an Everton player. Now you're probably wondering why I've done that. Now Mykolenko, I've got a little graphic above me here, but as you can see the stats on the screen as well will basically reflect all of that. So we can see last season 11 clean sheets, great amount of defensive contributions, 252. So not exactly 10 per game, but you're looking at maybe like an 8 per game if we look at it like that, which is pretty strong overall. So yeah, looking at that sort of side, you might think you might get the extra two per some games, but he's also a creative threat, as we can see here. His expected goal involvement is 2.6, which means he's much higher than the likes of a Branthwaite or a Tarkowski, or even O'Brien as well, who plays at the right hand side. So Mykolenko for me looks pretty good pre-season, I've got to admit, and also his fixtures look pretty healthy. I mean, Leeds, then Brighton, then Wolves, those three teams looking to maybe at least pick up 6 points. If you're Everton, you're wanting at least 6 points from those. Then he does have a difficult spell. We've got Villa and Liverpool. Then it eases off a bit with a home game to West Ham, but then it is quite a tricky 3 games back-to-back with Palace, City and Tottenham. So you look at the first 5 games, you're looking at potentially getting 2 clean sheets, quite a few, you might be able to contribute a little bit there, and then it's 2 difficult spells against Villa and Liverpool where he could pick up defensive contribution points, we don't know. So again, we'll have to see how Everton start the year off, but they do have a difficult first 10 games if you look at it that way. A few nice little games in between, West Ham, Sunderland, but the first 3 games of the season are brilliant. Now I've got him in because he's 5 million, I can transfer him out, which is my plan going forward. So we also have Wan-Bissaka, we got Van der Ven, and then also at the back on my subs bench, as you can see here, I've got Milenkovic because I do like their beginning few fixtures here. I do like the game against Brentford. I think that'll be good, but I do want to play my defenders that are going to play against the 3 promoted sides, 3 sides that are going to struggle a little bit to adapt at the beginning. But Milenkovic having Brentford, Palace, West Ham and Burnley in the first 5 games, I think is fantastic. If you look at the first 6 games, you're looking at potentially getting 3 clean sheets if you look at the way that the actual fixture difficulty rating is concerned. But I do like the first 10 games. It's quite a nice entry into the season, one of the nicest ones throughout. And then also I've got De Kuyper, so I think that's how I pronounce it, De Kuyper. I've got him in. He looks like he's going to start in that left back role to replace Estupidon, who has now gone to Milan, I think it is. But I think he's going to replace him. And they have Fulham, Everton and Bournemouth all in the first 5 games, which is quite nice. I can also rotate them out through my 5 defenders. I'm pretty happy to do so. And obviously Van der Ven, he's in there as well because I think Tottenham are going to do very well, and I spoke about him last time. The next player that I have brought in, that is going to be an interesting one, is going to be Jorginho Rutter even. Now, we just had a look at Brighton's sort of fixture list. Fulham, Everton, Bournemouth, all in the first 5 games, and we do have a difficult game against City and Tottenham, but they are at home, so you'd hope they pick up a few goals or a few contributions at least. But Jorginho Rutter, pre-season, he's been playing up front, and he's done pretty well in the pre-season if we had a look at him. 19 starts last year, 5 goals, 6 assists. He normally sits behind the striker, but they've let Matt O'Reilly sitting behind the striker. They've had, I believe they play Mintet on the left, and then Mintet on the right, and Matoma on the left, and then Rutter up front. That's sort of how they've been doing it with Hinshelwood and the likes behind him, with Whiffer as well. It's a pretty nice team in all honesty, but Jorginho Rutter seems to be taking that place. Now, Welbeck, I don't know if he's injured, but he hasn't played many times pre-season. I think he's started 1 game. I don't know where he's going to fit into this side now, and I believe Rutter's going to start up front now for 6 million, and he's going to be playing basically as a striker. That's fantastic news, because what that'll be able to let me do if I have to, and Watkins doesn't have a fantastic return. Liverpool pick up the pick up the pace. I could get rid of a Watkins, bring in a cheaper striker, and put all that money towards like a Liverpool player, like take Szoboszlai out, put Salah in if I can. I know it's an extra 8 million around that, but with the amount of money that I could save and shifting things around, I reckon I could do so. Getting rid of Fernandes and Watkins in one transfer window, and then getting in the likes of Salah and maybe a really cheap forward. So that's sort of where I'm at the moment. So I'm trying to see what I can do with my team, but I think Jorginho Rutter is a very good pick. Now the rest of the team, we've got Palmer, who's going to be fantastic. I think Chelsea look very strong this year. Difficult one against Crystal Palace to start the season off, but in terms of the first 5 games, there's going to be plenty of goals there on display. Palace look pretty weak. Guehi's just gone off injured in the Community Shield, not the Champions League, in the Community Shield. West Ham don't look very good at the back, I've got to admit. Fulham, again, another team that I like to concede. Brentford, I would not say are particularly strong. And then United as well, going to concede a lot of goals. So I think those first 5 games is going to return every week. He has to. Maybe up to the first 6, but then even then after that, you've got a difficult game against Liverpool, a difficult fixture game away from Forest, and then Sunderland, Wolves and Burnley. I think around game week 8, maybe even 6, you want to try and get as many Chelsea players in as you can. So that's why Palm's in there. Fernandes looks like United's biggest outlet going forward. We know he's going to be on penalties. We saw him take that against, I think he took one in the pre-season, I believe he did. But for the past few years, he's been fantastic. I mean, his 2021 season, 244 points was outstanding. Since then, he's been a consistent 20-goal contribution, sort of, around there, between 15 and 20. Really, really good. Expected goal involvement's always been around that 20 mark. He has fallen off over recent years, but the reason why I've got him in is the defensive contributions. 359 in 35 starts. Bruno Fernandes runs around like no one's business, and the fact that no one's actually getting him, picking him, as you can see up here, he's in the top 8, I guess. 15.4% of people have picked him, which is quite low, all things considering. Now, he averaged points per match last year, and it was 4.8. I know midfielders need 12 because they include ball recoveries in their defensive contributions, but for me, as a midfielder, if you look at that, if you look at 12 being on there, he goes into about 410, where you're getting a 10 per average per week. But for me, if and I believe this, United are going to be so dysfunctional that there's going to be so many ball recoveries, interceptions, blocks, clearances, everything, tackles. There's going to be so much going on. And then Bruno Fernandes on the other end of the pitch, where he actually manages to contribute. I reckon every week you're going to see a return from Bruno Fernandes. And for 9 million, I think it's brilliant value for money. Like, you look at Saka, who you could question, is he going to return every week? Because there's so many, they've got Gyökeres now, they've got the likes of Odegaard in there. Are they actually going to have every week a goal contribution or something of that sort? That's the question I pose. Fernandes for me is always going to do that, which is why I've got him in there. Then I've got Szoboszlai. I did have Gakpo at one point, but I'm not sure where the returns are going to come from for Liverpool. I believe Szoboszlai is a pretty good nailed-on player to put in there. Now, I know midfielders need 12 defensive contributions, but he does seem to be dropping a bit deeper and picking it up in there. 10 assists last season, 6 goals. I know he'd pushed forward a bit, and that's maybe where Wirtz is going to play this season. But looking at him in the Community Shield, he looks pretty solid. So I'm going to put him in for now. He had 13 expected goal involvements last year anyway, and he was way above that regardless. 10 assists, 6 goals. I think he's going to be pretty good. So I've got him in there for now to try and get me in there with the Liverpool games, because they do have a nice start to the season with Bournemouth, but then they have a Newcastle and Arsenal. So I've sort of sat back from it, and then I can assess in game week 2. I want to be able to see how did they do against Bournemouth. They performed pretty poorly against Palace, both Salah and Gakpo, who are the main threats. Ekitike, not Etikike. Ekitike played very well. I think Wirtz had a good first half, but they need to find their form. And then when it gets to that game week 3, I can really plan my action. Do I want to take out the likes of a Palmer for a Salah because Burnley and Everton are up next? Do I just see and evaluate who's going to come in? Is Ekitike a good viable option to maybe take Watkins out? That's where I'm at the moment. Then this is the greatest pick ever, I think. Daniel Marlin's going to start on that right-hand side. Leon Bailey has fallen out of contention. I think Daniel Marlin is starting on that right-hand side now. There's no Rashford to take his place, who had a little bit more talent, but pre-season he's been absolutely fantastic. 2.9% of people have picked him. He didn't really get many starts last year because of a little bit of an injury, but this man is the real deal. And defensive contributions at 17 when he only played 296 minutes, I think it's decent enough, as well as the fact that he might get you returns going forwards. 3 goals last year in 2 starts, comes off the bench, but this year he's going to be starting. And in those first 5 games, Newcastle, Brentford, Palace, Everton, Sunderland, all teams that'll be leaky at the back, I think anyway. I mean, Daniel Marlin seems like a screwed-on decision for me because they're going to be so good. Morgan Rogers I couldn't squeeze into the team. I've got Watkins up front. I think Marlin's a good $5.5 million pick, and he's only going to get more expensive if he starts. So, brilliant way of getting more money in, to be fair. Next up then, forwards, and last but not least, we're going to have a look at them. I have chosen Füllkrug. Now, Nicholas Füllkrug. Last year started 6 games, 793 minutes overall, which wasn't a mass amount of minutes. If you look at it, it's probably about 8 games that he played in. 3 goals scored, 2 assists. You know, overdid his expected goal involvements by a mile. But I think he's very good. Like, in all honesty, I think he's fantastic. I think pre-season West Ham look very good. They're playing like Bowen and Füllkrug up front. They've got the wing backs in there. They've got the 2 central midfielders. And then they have someone sat in behind, normally like a I want to say a Paqueta that sort of sits in behind them, who looks also a great pick, by the way. But Füllkrug, I think, is the answer because they're going to have a goal threat. It's going to be Bowen or Füllkrug, and Füllkrug's normally going to be one that stands in the box, takes the crosses in. They've got Juve going forward, Wan-Bissaka, Paqueta feeding them, Bowen as well in there, who'll be trying to feed Füllkrug. You could always tap them in and just be there. I think those first 6 fixtures are brilliant. I think Chelsea at home and Tottenham at home will be games where they could score. They are at their home ground. And for 6 million, it's an absolute bargain. Like, it's an absolute bargain. I don't really understand why he's 6 million. Maybe they've just not done like the research. Maybe they don't think he's going to start. But Füllkrug at 6 million is a steal. Then I also have Haaland and Watkins in there. Actually, I need to just change these out. My goalkeepers didn't even touch on. I do have Areola, who I think still going to start. I'm pretty much sure he's going to start. If he doesn't start, I've got Petrovic in there, who I can always alternate out with. And I've also got room, if I can just quickly show you, I believe, down to the transfers bit, I've got an extra 0.5 million to play with. Now, that's a little trick where I'm trying to just think now, transfers-wise, if I just quickly show you, the likes of a Palmer for 10.5 million, if I wanted to, I need to have a look at this now. Money-wise, let's just order it by price. 10.5 million. Now, these are. I think it's bad. In fact, it's a bad option to choose Palmer. Milenkovic. Let's use Milenkovic for an example, right? So look at the defenders. I want to try and get in a £6 million defender. If I just used, my sort of back 5, I couldn't get one in. Now, I've had to keep that 0.5 million in the bank because if these top 6, these top £6 million players, where there's 3, 6, 9 of them, I don't think these lot are going to get that many returns, if I'm frankly quite honest. Liverpool look a bit leaky at the back and have a difficult 3 games to start off with. Arsenal, again, have a very difficult front 5, and it's sort of not nailed on who's going to play at the back at the moment. Is Gabriel going to come back in? We don't know. Vardiol and Aït-Nouri, I'd love to see actually where they play. If Aït-Nouri goes on the left, you're going to be looking at maybe trying to get him as many assists as possible if he can. If he can't, defensive contributions aren't going to hold him up. He's only going to get 2 points a game. Same with Vardiol. Great going forward last year. 5 goals. And he picked up a few clean sheets, to be fair. But defensive contributions-wise, will he get more of them being a centre-back? And he's not going to be able to go forward as much. That's a question I want to also ask. So, again, Milenkovic in there. He's my 5.5 million pick. That's my premium one that I'm going with. If my top 6 there, or the top £6 million players for defender, aren't worth it, I've got 5.5 million to work with. Same for my midfield. If I want to bring in a midfielder, for example, who's like 8.5 million, somewhere around there, or I've got quite. In fact, I've got quite premium picks. But if I want to bring in the likes of like a Sarr, who is 6.5 million, or a Matoma, or someone like that, and die because Jorginho Rutter isn't doing the bits. I can also bring in someone else in. You know, you can see here I've got other options to choose from. Same for me strikers. You know, if you look at the forwards in here, 6.5 million strikers. Welbeck's in there. I've got Delap as well. Raul, Richarlison, Strand Larson as well. If Fulkrug isn't doing the business, so I could always bring players out. I've gone for my, you know, I think I've got a really good few players in there, like a Watkins, like a Palmer, a Fernandes, who are interchangeable with the other high picks, but also my defenders I can interchange out as well. And if I need a £5 million goalkeeper, I could go and get one in game week 2. So that's the sort of thing that I'm looking at there. Haaland is the only one where if I do have this, it's him or Isaac really. And at the moment, if I do take him out and put Isaac in, I've got an extra 4 million around to play with, where I'd be really considering taking out the likes of a Fernandes, or I'd be putting in, you know, and then I'd be putting in Salah or something like that. But then if I didn't actually go with a Isaac and I went with a Gyökeres instead because he picks up form, I've got 5.5 million to play with, where I'd probably be looking at bringing out a Marlon or a Szoboszlai, maybe bringing out like a, you know, a De Kuyper or Van der Ven, who maybe not be doing so well at the start of the year, or maybe even bringing in a premium goalkeeper. So that's sort of the things that I'll probably I've picked a side which I can use for the 2 first game weeks, which is brilliant. I'm really happy with it. Like, it couldn't have been much better in my opinion. So these are like this is like my starting 11 for the first 2 game weeks. Then I'll have 2 free transfers to use, and we'll see where I go from there. It's going to be very interesting to see actually what we can do with the likes of, you know, the like first 2 games getting out of the way, how the season starts out, who's picked up the form, who's going to be in there. But I think I've got a very balanced side to be very flexible and easy to bring in players who I want. So that's pretty much it. That's where I'm going to leave it off. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully a nice 15-minute video for you. Something that's pretty, like, you know, quick anyway. Hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you are new. 294 sub-managers. Thank you so much. We're so close to the 300 that I wanted by the end of 2025, which is crazy. So thank you very much. A few more simulations that I'm hoping to bring to you. We'll see what I can do with them. Other than that, we're going to get straight into more and more action, more and more Hey News, more and more spits like, or Hey Chat. I think it's Hey Chat I call it, where I just like to chat about different things that happen in the world. But yeah, let's see where we go from there. So thank you guys for watching. As ever, hope you're all well and hope you're all keeping safe. From me, Alex, have a great day. Ciao.